made a huge mistake.
Greetings, fellow mortals. Just a reminder, saying it's just my opinion is for cowards. For everyone who doesn't know, I hate pro wrestling, meaning that I am absolutely obsessed with it. It's the weirdest combinations of fiction that I have ever seen. Pro wrestlers need to be top athletes, theater actors, and masters of human psychology at the same time. They have to have giant egos, but be willing to be in public in nothing but their underwear. They need to turn up their personalities to cartoonish levels, yet make people believe that everything they do is real. Despite the fact that everything is phony as a football bat, it's something to respect as a creative endeavor. But by God, when pro wrestling becomes bad, there is really nothing in the world artistically worse than bad pro wrestling. And that was demonstrated recently by AEW. In a desperate attempt to grab some ratings, the man in charge, Tony Khan, decided to show footage of CM Punk, a wrestler no longer under contract, choking out Jack Perry, a wrestler who is still under contract. Now, this situation was complicated, and as a fan of CM Punk, I can admit that he shouldn't have choked the little guy. But showing the footage was definitely a bad call. It led to the owner, Tony Khan, being involved in the show as a character and as an act. He was beat up on live television by Luke Perry's son and his vice presidents. All the while, Khan fired CM Punk with cause because he was supposedly scared for his life during this altercation. And that was the moment that I knew AEW was dead, because this is how every pro wrestling company dies, even WWE. Vince McMahon was famous for being the evil boss. He was also a character on television. What? And to be fair, Vince McMahon, working with his top star Steve Austin and The Rock, broke television records which have never been topped in wrestling ever again. But then he sabotaged it all by doing the unthinkable. McMahon and Austin decided that their on-screen characters should stop feuding after years and unite in the dark side. And that was the day that the WWE under Vince McMahon died. Now, the company obviously lived on, and it continued to make absurd amounts of money because Vince McMahon killed all of his competition, but it never really recovered creatively. The show was stumbling for decades after this, slowly getting worse and worse until it was unbearably bad around 2019 to 2020. Also, that's where AEW came into the picture, so there you go. And the creative only managed to improve when Vince McMahon was outed from the company because of his terrible actions against women.
I'm fine, I just threw up in my mouth a little bit.
I won't go on condemning Vince McMahon because I've already done that before. Instead, I'll focus on the pro wrestling product. These two incidents in these two companies are what is known as jumping the shark. This term comes from the show Happy Days. In a late season episode, Fonzie literally jumps a shark on water skis. This was a ratings grab that the show never recovered from creatively. While the series did continue afterward, this is the time where almost everyone agrees that the show actually died. This is where the term jumping the shark comes from. And there are more recent examples of this too. The Walking Dead comes to mind. I like to refer to this trope as crawling under the dumpster too. If you know, you know. I could sit here and name plenty of others. Roseanne, That 70s Show. Hell, even Game of Thrones. George R.R. Martin jumped the shark so badly he can't come back from it to write another book. It's a point where creative gets so bad and wild that it can never recover, at least with the people currently in charge. And to be fair, AEW and WWE aren't the only wrestling promotions to jump the shark. WCW has the Finger Poke of Doom, where the world title changed hands when Hulk Hogan poked Kevin Nash to win. And this happened because the man running the show, Eric Bischoff, let the wrestlers run wild and do whatever they want, especially the ones that were the big stars. Then there's TNA's Aces and Eights, which involve the owner, Dixie Carter. And then there's Lucha Underground, where, in storyline, the owner, Dario Cuarto, was shot and killed. Oh god, Lucha Underground. Not a day goes by where I don't miss that show. But what do all of these situations have in common? The person in charge of the company became a character and let their top stars do whatever they wanted to, dragging the owners and the companies down with them, except Lucha Underground, but that's a weird one. All the others happened for a multitude of reasons. Wild egos, desperation, overconfidence, and worst of all, creative bankruptcy.
Now let's see how it looks so far.
Here's the thing, most people have a limit to their creative ideas, even people that do it for a living. Not many individuals are a bottomless well of ideas. Stephen King and Brandon Sanderson are rare individuals. Even people with great ideas run out eventually. Martin and Rowling are good examples of this. So if these famous writers can eventually run dry and never make anything good ever again, then so can people in wrestling, especially people in wrestling. It's an artificial sport that runs all year long. That's a lot of stress. Imagine having to make 2 to 5 hours of television every single week or more, and making it live TV on top of all of that. It would literally drive anyone insane. And it is amazing to watch unfold. It is a car crash in motion. You cannot look away, and each time the reasons behind it are so simple. The show is failing, the owner gets desperate, the wrestlers suggest making the owner a character, goading the boss's ego so that their job won't disappear, or in Mr. McMahon's case, he lost his edge because he killed all of his competition, so he literally went mad with power and control, and things didn't recover until he went bye-bye. And that's honestly the key when someone has lost their creativity. Well, besides ending the story, but wrestling never ends, and some stories, like George Martin's, need to be finished. In the case of A Song of Fire and Ice, George has to hire someone to help him, a ghostwriter, if you will. And wrestling needs to bring in new creative minds. One person can't be in charge of the writing or booking in this case, but I'm just a fan, so I'm not going to use their inside terms forever. If a show never ends, it has to be in flux, evolving, adapting, changing, both on screen and behind the scenes. Otherwise, it will slowly die. Stagnation is death in art. And when you find something that works, ride that wave while trying to improve. Don't shoot yourself in the foot like TNA constantly flatlining itself. WWE is finally doing decently creatively after almost 30 years because Vince McMahon is gone, and AEW could easily be better and fix almost all of its issues if Tony Khan would get out of his own way and use his vast fortune to hire professionals to write for him. And a fresh director would be nice as well. It's very simple, but not easy because of pure hubris. Egos cannot let logic prevail. George R. Martin can't admit that he has lost his way, so he distracts everyone by putting his name on stuff that he really doesn't have creative input into, but is still good, so technically he gets a lot of the credit, like Elden Ring or House of the Dragons. You really think he's doing a lot behind the scenes? Nuh-uh. Vince McMahon couldn't give up his perverted need for control. Eric Bischoff couldn't give up being friends with stars. Dixie Carter couldn't give up being a TV star. Tony Khan can't give up his dream of personally running every aspect of a wrestling show. It all comes down to narcissism. Everyone's the hero of their own story, and everyone thinks that they're the main character. But when the artist cares about themselves more than the art, it ends badly. And by God, isn't that a problem across all forms of entertainment right now? Something that could be learned in so many different stories. It's not about you, it's not about your ego, it's not about your cause. It's about making good entertainment that distracts people from how terrible the world is right now. That's the job of creative people, and when they can't do their job, they jump the shark. You're welcome to disagree with all this, that's fine. After all, everyone is entitled to their objectively wrong opinion.
Sheer hubris.